Like someone finding a hidden passage in your house that you didn't even know was there.
That is a great analogy.
You get in.
Because you don't know it exists. You
Right.
can't protect it. And that's what makes zero-day attacks so dangerous.
Yeah, so a zero-day attack exploits a vulnerability in software that's completely unknown to the developers,
To everyone.
the security vendors, everyone.
Yeah.
So no one's even looking for it.
Exactly.
Let alone has a fix ready.
Right.
So,
So to break it down,
yeah.
a zero-day vulnerability is that hidden flaw in the software.
Okay.
A zero-day exploit is that tool, the code that a malicious actor creates to pry open that flaw.
And a zero-day attack is when they actually use that exploit to break into a system.
So the vulnerability is the weakness, the exploit is the weapon, and the attack is the break-in.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
And the term zero-day comes from the idea that the developers have 0 days to patch it before it's already being exploited.
So it's like a thief getting the blueprints to your house before you even move in.
Yes, exactly. Like they already know how to get in and where the valuables are before you've even settled.
Wow.
So researchers have actually mapped out how these attacks unfold,
Okay.
and it's a little nerve-wracking.
Okay, so walk us through it.
Okay.
Where does it all begin?
It starts with the vulnerability being introduced during software development,
Okay.
often unintentionally,
Uh-huh.
and it's just sitting there hidden like a ticking time bomb.
So stage one vulnerability exists.
Mm-hmm.
No one's the wiser.
Right.
Then what?
Then comes the discovery.
Okay.
This is where a malicious actor stumbles upon that vulnerability.
Mhm.
And now this could be anyone. Right.
From a lone wolf hacker to a sophisticated state-sponsored group.
So they've found the hidden passage.
Yes, they have.
What do they do next?
Well, they get to work crafting an exploit, essentially weaponizing that vulnerability.
Yeah.
And they do this with remarkable speed.
Okay.
Stage three, the vendor, the company behind the software,
Yeah.
finally catches wind that there's a problem,
Okay.
but they're scrambling to fix it.
So it's like realizing your house has a secret entrance, but you don't know where it is or how to seal it off.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, the intruder is already inside.
That's a great way to put it.
Yikes.
So what happens next?
Yeah, what happens next?
The vendor, often with the help of security researchers, goes public with the news of the vulnerability.
Isn't that risky? Won't that just alert more bad guys?
It is a double-edged sword, for sure.
Okay.
It warns users, but it also puts other attackers on notice.
Right.
At this point, the antivirus companies join the fray, trying to identify the malware if it's being used and update their protections. So it's like a frantic race against time,
Yes.
with everyone trying to catch up to the attacker who had that head start.
Exactly. And it's only in stage 6 that the vendor releases a patch, the fix for the vulnerability.
Okay.
But even then, not everyone installs patches right away.
Leaving the door wide open
You got it.
for that intruder.
And that brings us to the final stage where hopefully the patch is deployed and the vulnerability is finally closed.
Okay.
But the reality is, throughout this entire process, systems are vulnerable.
It's a sobering reminder that in the world of zero-day attacks, no one is truly safe.
You're absolutely right. And the scariest part is these attacks can be incredibly devastating.
Yeah.
Take the Sony Pictures hack in 2014.
Yeah.
It crippled their entire network, led to massive data leaks,
Wow.
including unreleased films, confidential emails, you name it.
Oh, wow.
The damage was extensive.
The complete digital meltdown.
Exactly. And it wasn't just Sony.
Right.
RSA, a security firm, was targeted through a zero-day exploit in Adobe Flash Player. Hackers sent emails disguised as job applications with malicious attachment.
Oh, wow.
When employees opened them, bam, the attackers had remote control of their computers.
A security company getting hacked.
I know.
That's like a firefighter's house burning down.
Right. It's ironic.
What about Operation Aurora?
Operation Aurora.
That always sounded ominous.
That was massive.
Yeah.
Back in 2009, over 20 global companies, including giants like Google and Adobe, were targeted.
Wow.
Attackers exploited flaws in Internet Explorer to steal intellectual property.
So it's like the digital equivalent of corporate espionage, but on a grand scale.
Yes, and then there are the nation-state attacks, where zero-day exploits are used for espionage sabotage, even disrupting critical infrastructure.
Like Stuxnet.
Exactly.
Wasn't that designed to cripple Iran's nuclear program?
That's right.
Yeah.
Stuxnet was a highly sophisticated worm that caused physical damage to centrifuges used for uranium enrichment.
Wow.
It highlights the very real, very physical consequences these digital attacks can have.
It's mind-blowing how something intangible like code can have such a tangible impact
I know, it's fascinating, isn't it?
on the real world. But who are these people?
Right.
These groups behind these attacks?
Yeah.
Is it just some guy in a hoodie hunched over a computer?
It's rarely that simple. We're talking about everyone from individual cyber criminals looking for a quick payday to hacktivist groups pushing a political agenda.
So anyone with a motive and the technical know-how could be behind these attacks.
And don't forget about corporate spies seeking trade secrets and nation-states engaging in cyber warfare.
Wow, so the motivations and players are incredibly diverse.
Very diverse.
And the targets, who's most at risk?
Well, the truth is anyone can be a target.
Okay.
Your computer, my computer,
Right.
could be compromised to be part of a massive botnet,
Right.
a network of infected devices controlled by hackers.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the more targeted attacks aimed at individuals with access to valuable data. Companies holding sensitive information and government agencies.
And those critical infrastructure targets you mentioned before.
Yes.
Like power grids and water treatment plants.
Exactly.
Those are particularly chilling.
Absolutely. Imagine the chaos if a hacker gained control of a city's power grid or transportation system.
Yeah. It's a terrifying thought.
It is.
So knowing all of this, how do we even begin to protect ourselves?
Right.
Is it even possible to stay ahead of these unknown threats?
That's the million-dollar question, and one we'll dive into right after this.
So we've been talking about these stealthy digital ninjas, these zero-day attacks, and it is a little unsettling to think about.
Yeah, it's unsettling.
Especially when you realize that these attacks are exploiting weaknesses that we don't even know exist yet.
But we don't even know exist.
So how do we defend against something that we can't even see coming?
Right. It's a challenge for sure.
Yeah, it's like trying to fight a ghost.
Well, there's no easy answer, no magic wand we can wave.
Right.
It's more about being vigilant and proactive. Or think of it like this, even though we can't see the wind, we can see the leaves rustling,
Right.
the flags waving.
Yeah.
Similarly, with zero-day attacks, it's about recognizing unusual patterns or behaviors in our systems.
Okay, so give me some of those telltale signs.
Okay.
What should we be looking for?
Well, one approach is to compare suspicious activity against databases of known malware.
Okay.
It's like checking fingerprints against a criminal database.
Right.
But with 0 days, it's tricky because the fingerprints haven't been recorded yet.
So what else can we do?
We need to go deeper, look for deviations from the norm within our systems.
Okay.
If a program suddenly starts accessing files it shouldn't, that's a red flag.
Right, like someone lurking around your house that doesn't belong there.
Exactly. It's like noticing something out of place.
So it's about establishing that baseline of normal activity and then looking for anomalies.
Right.
What about machine learning? I hear that that's becoming a big deal in cybersecurity.
Absolutely. Machine learning is like having a digital detective constantly learning and adapting.
Yeah.
It analyzes massive amounts of data to identify patterns and predict potential threats.
So it's getting smarter as it goes, picking up on those subtle clues that humans might miss.
Exactly. It's like having a bloodhound sniffing out those hidden vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
It is.
But detecting these attacks is only half the battle, right?
Right.
How do we prevent them in the first place?
Prevention is key, and it starts with the basics.
Okay.
Keep your software and operating systems up to date.
Right.
I know those update notifications can be annoying, but they often include critical security patches.
So no more hitting that remind me later button?
Exactly. Those updates are like reinforcing the weak spots in your armor.
Okay.
Another crucial step is minimizing your attack surface.
Okay.
Think of it like this. The more doors and windows you have,
Yeah.
the more entry points there are for a burglar.
So the fewer programs we have, the fewer potential vulnerabilities.
Use only what you need and uninstall anything you don't.
Makes sense.
And of course, a robust firewall is essential.
Okay.
It's like a security guard for your computer filtering out malicious traffic.
So like having a bouncer at the door of your digital world?
Precisely keeping the riffraff out.
I like that.
And speaking of security, let's not forget about good cybersecurity hygiene.
Cybersecurity hygiene?
Yes.
Does that mean washing my hands after browsing the web?
Well, not literally. It's
Right.
about developing safe habits.
Okay.
Use strong passwords.
Right.
Be cautious with email attachments and avoid clicking on suspicious links.
Right.
It's like practicing good personal hygiene to avoid getting sick.
Okay.
But in the digital world,
So being smart and cautious online is really half the battle.
you got to think before you click.
Right.
And always be suspicious of anything that seems too good to be true.
Yeah. Okay. Good advice. But even with all these precautions, can we ever really be 100% safe
Right.
from zero-day attacks?
Unfortunately, no, it's a constant cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
As technology evolves, so do the attackers.
Right.
But by taking these steps, you're significantly reducing your risk.
Okay.
It's about making yourself a less appealing target.
So it's about layering our defenses,
Exactly.
making it as difficult as possible for those digital ninjas to break in.
Yes. And remember, knowledge is power.
Right.
The more you understand about zero-day attacks, the better equipped you are to protect yourself.
Well said. It's all about being aware, being proactive, and staying one step ahead of the bad guys. We'll be right back to wrap up our deep dive into the world of zero-day attacks. Okay, we're back, and wow. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little more aware of the digital shadows lurking out there.
Yeah, it's definitely eye-opening to think about.
Yeah, but knowledge is our best weapon, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the future. Where do you see zero-day attacks heading? Are we going to be playing this cat and mouse game forever?
I think that's a pretty safe bet, unfortunately. As technology advances, so will the sophistication of these attacks. And we're already seeing a trend towards more targeted attacks, focusing on high-value targets.
Like critical infrastructure.
Exactly. Critical infrastructure government agencies.
So the stakes are getting higher.
Definitely. And the attackers are getting smarter, too.
Right.
Finding new ways to exploit these vulnerabilities.
It's faster than we can patch them.
Faster than developers can patch them. Yeah, it's a little daunting to think about.
Yeah, it is. So what can we do to stay ahead of the curve? Is there any hope?
There is hope. There's a lot of hope. Actually, one really positive development is the increased collaboration between security researchers, software vendors, and even governments.
So everyone's realizing that we're all in this together.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah.
we're finally all on the same team,
Right.
and we're sharing information and working together to identify and patch these vulnerabilities more quickly.
And what about AI
Yes.
and machine learning? I hear that that's playing a big role.
A huge role. The role of artificial intelligence in machine learning and cybersecurity is growing so rapidly.
Oh.
These technologies can analyze massive amounts of data. They can detect anomalies, and they can predict potential threats in ways that humans just can't.
So it's like having an army of digital detectives
Exactly.
working around the clock to keep us safe.
I love that analogy. That's a great way to put it.
But ultimately,
yeah,
the most important line of defense is us.
right. It is you, the user. You're the most important line of defense.
So we all have a role to play
Absolutely.
in this digital battleground.
We do. Zero-day attacks are a constant reminder that cybersecurity is an ongoing process.
Right.
We need to stay informed, we need to keep our systems updated, and we need to practice good cyber hygiene.
So we can't afford to be complacent.
We can't. We really can't. It's like we're all soldiers in this digital army fighting to protect our data and our privacy.
That's a powerful image.
It is.
And it really does highlight the importance of being vigilant, aware, and proactive.
Absolutely.
Well, Laura, thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into the world of zero-day attacks.
It's been my pleasure, Michael.
It's been fascinating and a little terrifying,
A little bit of both.
but very informative, so thank you.
You're welcome.
And that is it for today's episode of the AnzenGuard podcast. I'm Michael Reynolds.
And I'm Laura Wilson.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and share this episode with your friends and colleagues. Stay safe out there in the digital world.